From Hong Kong and Iraq to Lebanon, Spain, Haiti, and more, protests have flared around the globe, some lasting for months now. For some perspective on what could be triggering the demonstrations, Hari Srinivasan recently spoke with former U.S. State Department advisor and professor at Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies, Vali Nasser.
First, are these in any way, shape, or form connected? I mean, it seemed when it was the Arab Spring, it was literally regional, it was country after country, there seemed to have been a tipping point. But now we are seeing protests for different reasons in Hong Kong, in Chile, in parts of the Middle East. What's happening?
Well, they're not connected in the sense that one group is protesting because it saw protests elsewhere on social media or television. But they're connected in the sense that there is a general feeling of unhappiness around the world, unhappiness where the economies are going, where countries are going. In the West, we see it in form of a populist uprising at the polls, the pro-globalization, pro-European integration, pro-democracy forces losing ground to dissident forces who believe things are not working for them. They're not happy with what governments are doing, and they're not happy with the economic promises they're receiving. In countries where the ballot box is not an option, like in Lebanon or in Hong Kong, in a sense, you're seeing these things come out on the streets. And I would say also that if we looked at the general numbers for where the global economy is, we're seeing a gradual decline. We hear less and less talk about the promises of emerging markets, countries from developing world, becoming wealthy and prosperous and self-sustaining economically. So the economic underbelly is also weak. And then finally, since President Trump has come into office, he has given a lot more latitude to authoritarian governments to do as they please. And I think in some cases we're seeing authoritarian overreach triggering backlashes, where we're seeing that moment where authoritarian governments thought that they have it all under control and they now can push further, is now receiving a pushback from the public in the streets.
Over the decades, it seems that the protests have always been led by a particular generation. Is there a demographic consistency here? I mean, because at least in the videos, it seems that there are young people, whether it comes to South America or the Middle East or Hong Kong, that are really pushing now.
Well, I mean, in most of the areas that you refer to, the youth is the overwhelming portion of the population. So whenever you have large numbers of people in the streets, you will see a lot of young people. Otherwise, you won't get those numbers in the streets if young people didn't show up. But also, young people are both more risk takers and are also more worried about the future and are more willing to challenge the way things are. There is a desire to shake things up. So in Lebanon, in Chile, or in Hong Kong, or in Egypt, this is turning out into being at the forefront of challenging existing authority and state structures. The problem with this is that there is also no leadership, there's no party, there's no clear blueprint that is driving these protests. And we can see a repeat of what happened during the Arab Spring, where even where they succeeded, as in Egypt, they were not able to translate that into something new, and elsewhere they were not able to sustain the protest, and in some cases, as in Syria or Libya, things actually fell apart completely.
We're also seeing that governments are getting smarter in figuring out how to use the same tools or to block those tools that protesters are using digitally. So some protesters might be using certain apps to try to organize, and governments are figuring out how to stop that.
Well, what we've seen clearly since the American elections is that the internet is no longer a force for democracy, the way we used to think about it, that it actually can be a force for undermining democracy, both democratic practice, as in the case of US elections, but also undermining pro-democracy movements, of trying not only to jam their building of a community, but also spreading of false information that can confuse things. So governments have become a lot better at that. But what we are seeing is that they're not able to assert total control. In other words, there are cases where the population still shows its discontent despite it's being fed by the government and despite the limitations of social media.
All right, Vali Nasser, a Middle East scholar and professor at Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.